It is my pleasure to welcome you to a Women in Tech panel about women in teams. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come, and I love the fact, ooh, I got some feedback. We good? Okay.
I think it was Sharon's. Don't put it too close to Sharon.
Sharon, Tracy, so Christy. Who's doing it? But I love the fact that we have a good mix of male and female in the room. If anyone happened to also catch the podcasts that we did earlier, because Women in Teams is inclusive of everyone. So you'll probably hear us say that multiple times today. Since I'm already talking, I'll go ahead and jump the line and introduce myself. We've never met before, so happy to meet you. My name is Joy Apple. I'm the Director of Customer and Partner Success for Orchestra Software. Been in the community, the Microsoft space for, this year counts up to 16 years. Focused on SharePoint. SharePoint is my first love. I am the joy of SharePoint. I mean, I love it, and I love puns. So it's natural transition, as most of us, to go from SharePoint into Teams and kind of walk the line between both apps. Thank you for being here. Who's next on the list that I jumped?
No, we don't have a slide.
We don't have the appropriate slides.
I'm going to turn this on now. Hopefully I won't mess people up. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I feel like this room is so small for us.
It's for the
Recording.
So please just use it.
Okay, first the recording. I'm Sharon Weaver. I run a company called Smarter Consulting, and I live in the Microsoft world. Joy didn't mention she's a Microsoft MVP. So that means we get to hang out with the product teams and provide feedback and help make the products better. So I get to do that too. And I've been in tech for, I don't have my slides, so I'm off my game. 25 some odd years, so been doing this a while too.
And you run your own company.
And I have my own company.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes, Sharon is, let me say, I started this last week. She is CEO MVP RD, Sharon Weaver.
All the letters,
Oh,
MCT.
MCT.
Yeah.
I
I just
left that
collect letters.
That's because you're amazing.
Yes.
Hi everyone, I am Carol Wanagatimu. I sit in Microsoft Teams Engineering. I run the customer advocacy group. So I do all of our global community activity. I run adoption.microsoft.com and all of the virtual event playbook stuff, courses and what have you. And I get to come to all these fun events and represent Microsoft. So thank you for being here. This is an awesome show and I'm just happy to be here.
That leaves me. I'm Christy Robison, IGP, that's Information Governance Professional. I also run my own small consulting company. It's called Paintmark Consulting, with focus on compliance and governance, but focused on Microsoft 365 stack. And like these ladies, I come from a SharePoint history all the way back from WSS 3.0. So that might be sharing my age a little bit, but I'm very excited and happy to be included and participating in this Women in Teams, because it's really kind of a spotlight on women in teams, meaning all are welcome in teams. It's totally inclusive, but we're spotlighting what women in teams and women in tech have been able to accomplish.
Excellent. Speaking of accomplishing things, I want to call out, last night while some of us were doing a whiskey tasting and others were trying to figure out where they were going to have dinner, Caruana was in the airport to be here to support this awesome conference and to support this Teams community. And then within 24 hours is also going to be in the airport this evening to make it, to do other amazing things. So thank you
You're
for
welcome.
adding jet lag to the list of things that you're doing for us this week.
It's all good.
It's appreciated. So if we also see her run quickly at the close, she does literally has a plane to catch. That's it. Bouncers will be on call to clear the path for her. Christy actually did a lot of the work of putting these slides together. I think Sharon and I tend to be like, okay, let's just show up and talk. And Christy said, let's talk with purpose and a format. And we're like, oh, well, that's a refreshing idea. So we're just going to talk a little bit about women at work. And this next slide caught me off guard. There are more CEOs named Michael or Jason than women of all names in the S&P 500. That was very surprising to me. I think right now we look in this room, right? We see good mix at this conference. More and more, the more technical conferences I go to, the more I see men and women starting to be kind of more equally represented. But I think when we were on the podcast, we kind of talked about the fact that it paves the way for the next generation of young girls to come into STEM and technology because they see women that are already doing it. And I think for women, it's very intimidating to be the first one to stand up to do something. So just looking at these numbers and then looking around as we see this kind of balancing act coming into play around us, it's kind of an exciting time. Curious thoughts on the panel.
Who would like to go first? Oh, okay, fine. I do think that things have changed tremendously over my time in tech. I've been in tech for, like 30 years, SharePoint, and he said Novell in the keynote, and I was like, yes, I know that. I was a Lotus Notes expert. Yeah, all that kind of good stuff. And so, yeah, my experience today is very different, but I also realize I do live in a bit of a bubble because I live in Microsoft Teams and I work at Microsoft. And Microsoft is very much about, that inclusion and really trying to change the lived experience of people. So I'm not surprised by the Michaels and Jameses because I do a lot of customer work too. And there's lots of men that I deal with, but they're, it's fine. I just feel like we just need to realize that we are still paving the way for those who come along. And I'll tell the quick story that I said earlier, which was I was at a STEM event this weekend at North Carolina State University, and I was their keynote speaker for their STEM competition. And there was a little girl who came up to me afterwards. These are kids between 10 and 17 at this competition. And they win, and then they go on to the national championship. But this little African-American girl came up to me afterwards and she's like, "You were so awesome. I've never seen another woman who looked like me in STEM," right? So even though this room is mixed and well-balanced, many are not. So she just almost made me cry in the first place. And in the second place, it was a good reminder that even though we're making progress here, there's places where progress still needs to be made. Ladies, yes,
anyone else?
More? There you go.
All right, so I did a presentation on this a while back, and one of the things that I realized to this comment was essentially when you think about heroes, especially like if you go like Google men in tech, many of you probably know, you could probably come up with 5 people right now, right, that are heroes, that are man in tech. But do the same thing for a woman. Tell me how many heroes that you have that are women in tech. It's hard, right? Could you Google it and find it? Have there been some movies in the last few years that have maybe brought some of those names up? But if you just like do that exercise, I think it really puts things in perspectives of kind of where we've been. Now, that said, I think going forward, some of our mission right now is to change that so that as we go forward, people like Caruana are known, right? And it's not just those men. So that's my kind of thoughts on it for the moment.
Since we're talking about movies, I have lifted a quote that I like to use a lot from a movie. I think it's on Netflix, and it's about Shirley Chisholm. Is anybody familiar with her? She was a politician in the 70s. I think she's passed away. She was a black woman who wanted to be president. And of course, she had nothing but obstacles, in her way. But in knocking down some of those obstacles for participation in different city and county and regional governments, she used to often use the phrase, "I know they're not going to have a seat at the table for me, but I'm going to bring my own chair." So I tell people, for women who are interested in tech and who might not feel like, or might be waiting for a carpet to be rolled out for them or an invitation, don't wait, just show up. bring your own chair, make your own spot at the table. Once you show interest, then it'll be a pile-on of other people trying to, bring you further into the fold. Sometimes we're not very good at recognizing when there's interest that might want mentoring or nurturing, but showing up or volunteering at events like this or just being present is sometimes all that it takes to start bringing those achievements and opportunities forward.
I was fortunate to be at a Women in Business event in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I live, and one of the panelists there is a VP for an oil and gas company. And I told this on the podcast too, but she contributes part of her being able to move up in oil and gas to inviting herself to the meetings. And it's not necessarily oversight. Oh, I'm not inviting you because you're a girl, right? We're not saying that is the sentiment, but we didn't know you were interested in being a part of this project or being part of the team. I think, Caruana, you mentioned earlier in our podcast conversation that confidence can be a challenge for women. I think standing up and go, I want to do that too, can be pretty intimidating. So bringing your own chair, inviting yourself to the meeting.
The things that Teams has provided for a lot of people who are introverts, who might otherwise not necessarily put a hand up.
It's that speaker, you're too close to that speaker.
Okay. Who might not put a hand up. In Teams, with the pandemic, so much work and meeting and collaboration had to happen over Teams, and I think that helped level the playing field for a lot of people who have been introverts and maybe felt a little bit more that the landscape had leveled a bit. Maybe felt a little bit more empowered to speak up, even if it's just to raise their hand in a Microsoft Teams meeting or to submit a comment in the chat. Having those multimodal opportunities to have a voice in the thing that's happening is something that is sometimes hard to do in an in-person event or in-person within organizations. Oftentimes, it's a younger person or a female person who's tasked with doing note-taking, right, or taking down the action items. Well, Teams has, there's a recording option, there's a summary option. So some of that less rewarding work can be automated, and all that does is provide a more open playing field around the virtual table or the hybrid table for all the people present in environments to be able to participate.
And one other quick note on that, I take excellent notes. I refuse to do it now. I don't do notes anymore. That is not my job. That can be someone else's job. And I'm not handing it to the most junior female woman in the room either, right? Read the transcript. We're all adults. Read the transcript. Check your own action items. And then now, hey, guess what? Co-pilot, please summarize the actions from this meeting and tell me where my name was mentioned. That is going to be a real thing. And then I'm really hoping that, this is a plus, what you're mentioning, in the fact that these capabilities will remove some of these things that have been used to keep us busily typing or whatever, right? Or we just kind of relegate ourselves to that because somebody has to take the notes, right? No, just record the meeting. It's internal. Read the transcript. Say no to notes.
Yes, just say no to notes. That could be a sticker.
That could be a sticker, yes. I think it should be a sticker, right? Hashtag say no to notes.
All right, so very wordy slide here, but I think it's a good one. Slides will be available. Feel free to take pictures of this if you want to, but it does kind of loop through some of the areas where Teams has helped with level the playing field, though I have to say, one of my favorite things that happened with meetings in Teams during the pandemic, because just about any horrible thing is going to have a silver lining, right? Whether it's a growth opportunity or just highlights things maybe we took for granted before. For me, it was the moment I was having a meeting with a customer. I was still in my consulting role, and he and his family lived in Ireland, so a little bit of a time difference, so that was kind of challenging. So he had his home office set up, very nice, very lovely, but I realized it was like past dinner time for him. His little girl comes into his office in her pajamas with her stuffed giraffe, climbs up into his lap, and just snuggles in because she was getting ready for bed. And I said, that is where the real dynamic change has happened for us. Because it's not, before COVID, if your dog or your child or your spouse or your whoever made a noise, you got during COVID, we normalized being parents, being spouses, being caretakers, being siblings, having pets, right? So watching this CEO of a company hold his daughter to help her have her wind down time before bed, I was like, this is where the real humanization of IT is happening. So that was thrilling.
I did want to just say one other thing that I hope you all share with other people. It's a no apology zone, right? And because we still at Microsoft, oh, I'm sorry, such and such, or I'm sorry my camera's not on, or I'm sorry my camera is on, or I'm sorry I don't have any makeup on, or I'm so sorry there's noise in the background. There's noise cancellation. I didn't hear that. You just told me about it. So like I really am trying to, as part of my People First initiative, trying to really get this concept out there that we can all stop apologizing now. Whatever's happening, you invited me into your world when you had a Teams meeting with me and you turned on that camera or didn't. But I'm in your worlds now and you're in mine, in my home. So, just let's all stop apologizing. I see a hand out there.
It's almost the opposite now. People are like, let me see your puppy.
Yes, let me see your puppy. Exactly.
Yes, I did have a customer that my cat ran across, because it's a cat. You're not paying attention to me, I'll show you. And he ran off and they're like, no, we have a pet introduction policy. You now need to go bring your pet back, face the camera, and introduce him to the team.
Wonderful. I'm going to add that to my playbook, a pet introduction policy.
Pet
I like that. That's
introduction
official
policy.
now.
I was like, y'all are my people. We loved it. All right, so we've got some questions that I'm gonna ask the panel. And then this is a panel, which means we need to be interactive. We wanna hear from you. We want you to ask questions, tell stories. We want to share experiences. The number one thing we want to get out of this room and this conversation today is the strength of the community. So we're going to be a community room today. But Caroline, I'm going to kick off with you. What do you think has been the most positive change for women in teams?
Oh, the most positive change for women in teams is our ability to craft our own destiny. Really, I don't think I've ever been at a time in tech where I felt like I could choose what I wanted to work on and invest in my own knowledge of that particular area and then go work on it. There's not enough technology professionals right now to go around, especially not those who can talk to people and who can blend the technology with the business outcome. And whether you like talking to people or not, or maybe you just want to be behind the keyboard and code and build things, there's not enough of us in any area. Power Platform, collaboration, SharePoint, syntax, pick an area. What do you like? So for me, the most positive thing is that we can create our own destiny. And my husband has some health issues and he was hurt some time ago and now he's retired. So I'm the breadwinner for our family. So I feel really happy that I'm able to do that, and I feel confident that whatever did or didn't happen at Microsoft, that I could continue to do that because of the career that I've created. So I really like that. And we did move, yeah. Well, I'm half-time in Seattle and half-time in Arizona. But yeah, I really feel like we can do what we want. We don't have to be in jobs we hate. Right? If you don't like your job or your team, change it. I'll help you, right? Because we want happy community members.
So we chatted a little bit about what Teams has done as a product, and I want to second some of the things that are on here because I think one of the most positive things that's happened.
Oh,
No, we don't.
Thank you for taking pity on us. Thank you.
And then we can also pass that one around maybe when it's question time.
So smart. Can you hear me? All right. So I think one of the most positive things that's happened, tech teams, from a product perspective, is as we've, post-pandemic, we've gone so virtual, right? I was remote before, so people thought I was nuts because I was like, you can live like this, right? And then the pandemic happened and we proved it. And I think the thing that's happened is, to your point, there's such a need in this space. And I think before, when I would walk into a conference room, I would look around and I would see, it was me and 30 dudes. That's my common thing is me and 30 dudes, right? And where we're virtual now, I find that it's a lot more inclusive and a lot more equal because I can get on a Teams call with anybody at any time, with any group at any time. We get on meetings. I don't feel that same pressure anymore to look or act or be a certain way that I did before that kind of happened. And now post-pandemic, with everything being so virtual, it's almost like it took everything and just shook it all up and then put it all back out. And I feel like it's a different game now. It's a different world. And when I walk into places, I don't feel the way that I felt before because I've met so many of these people online in a virtual space. I have a different relationship with them and I meet them at a different level. So I personally think that's been a very positive thing for women in tech, women in teams across the board.
I would add to that, too, that I've worked remotely for a number of years. And when the pandemic hit, I'm a caregiver to a disabled parent. So, sometimes there are times during the workday that I'm not able to fully participate in things. When the pandemic hit, then I realized a whole lot of other colleagues were in the same boat, at a desk all day long, at home. One of the problems that you see sometimes is you're staring at your office and you notice that your windows are crooked, or you start noticing all the things that have to go on the home improvement list. That's can be costly. But having a comfortable home office is really valuable. But circling back to not having a note taker and making everybody responsible for being fully present in their Teams engagements allows people, women mostly, who have historically either felt personally compelled to take the notes or take the action items, because I can relate to that, allows them to be more fully present. And I had a realization during that time, when we started using transcriptions, that I didn't realize how much I was missing out on by taking the notes or being the action item taker, just because it was a force of habit. So that's made me appreciate how much more fully present and engaged I can be in environments. And then another barrier that I think has fallen somewhat has been that organizational barrier. You have different people who are in different departments, and they might not necessarily feel equipped to speak up with an idea about how the finance department is doing something because they're from human resources, for example. But I think in teams and having, that virtual environment with multiple modalities of collaboration and documentation on the back end helped facilitate some cross-functional, idea pollination and recommendation sharing that might not have otherwise taken place at a conference room meeting, with senior people and junior people. So I've seen a lot of that kind of unofficial, perhaps, or non-tangible or non-quantifiable benefit kind of show up in the days since COVID.
So I want to kind of add on to what Sharon was saying. I started my career at IBM where I had to go out and buy a navy blue skirt. The fact that I can show up to work every day in a t-shirt just like all the men do is phenomenal. I never thought I would see this day. But one thing we haven't mentioned that I just want to add real quick that's specific to teams, I'm also a board member for our LGBTQ group at Avanade, and to me, mesh avatars are a game changer for transgender people. So just to add that level of inclusivity, that somebody can actually represent themselves in the way that they see themselves, is huge. And thank you to Teams for adding pronouns to it means the world to the people that I represent. So
I was going to ask that actually. How many of you tried avatars in this room? Okay, good. Because I was one of those people, I will admit it, I was like, yeah, no. I got my gaming avatar, Cassandra Knight, she's cool. I don't need one at work, right? And then I went in and built one. And then I heard from one of my team members who, because of his setup, isn't often on camera, but now he can use his avatar, and he really feels like he gets to participate more because his avatar is like doing something, or it can, have a reaction or what have you. And I was sold, because usually I have my hair in braids. And so when I was able to do that on my avatar and customize my skin color and my lipstick, and she actually looked kind of like me, then I was like, okay, this is cool. And since then, I have used her a lot. Because there is a real thing, video fatigue is a real thing.
Yes.
And I definitely have that because I'm on camera a lot. And so, yeah, I was going to ask about avatars because I do think that, they're underused to some extent because people poo-poo them without really realizing what benefit they can get out of participating but not being on camera.
I have no frill Fridays. I don't do my hair. I'm not going on camera on Fridays, just saying.
Repeat that, please.
Oh, sorry. I do no frill Fridays, and I love alliteration with there. I do waffle Wednesday, tip Tuesday. No frill Fridays. Like, don't ask me to be on camera. I'm not doing it. Not doing my hair, not doing my makeup, right? So hopefully, it should be a thing.
And her point in the back.
Camera, even if you don't do your hair and makeup.
Yeah, no.
That's the most important thing.
No, I hear you. And I think that that's maybe the old school person in me. It's like, can't quite get there. Although I do with my closest friends. I will get on camera without my hair and makeup done, but like, if I don't know you, then that's not happening.
Especially when you're professional friends, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was honestly really surprised because I also have worked from home for 20 years. And I just, you make assumptions like, oh yeah, everyone has worked from home. And when the pandemic hit, and I was a part of a women's organization here in Denver, and I realized, oh my gosh, there are vice presidents of large Fortune 500 companies, there are attorneys, there are very well-known high-level women working that have never really been on video, ever, or worked in a hybrid world. And so I found myself supporting a lot of women with, hey, you should try this lighting, or move your lamp to the front, take off the shade, just doing different things to help them have a better experience. But I thought that was really interesting to see so many that had close to no experience on video.
And I think it brings up a different realm of discomfort, and I'm not trying to be judgmental or exclusionary, but I do think in business women have some additional things to think about when it comes to our appearance, in terms of standards and what people, and depending on the industry you're in, like how I dress for the lawyers and the bankers is very different. I would not wear this there. I just wouldn't. And so some of that's old school, some of that's new, but I do think there's another added thing that we have to think about. It makes it a little bit more complex, that video presence.
Yes.
It's a thing.
Well, I can remember, so my first technical job was help desk. Anyone here start on the help desk? Rock on. You learn so much about people, your company, and technology on the help desk. But you go up to the door, because I would have my little binder of CDs to install Office 2007, because I'm that old, rock on. And they would go, you're in IT? Because I'm a little bit of a more feminine female, right? I like the hair and makeup. I have fun with my clothes. I was actually told by another woman in IT, you can't look feminine if you're going to succeed in IT. Thank you. You can look as you want to look to succeed anywhere. I think that's where culture is finally coming to. But like you said, now if I'd been in a bank and I chose to do my no frill Friday, they'd have been like, honey, what are you doing? I worked in an office where you would get sent home if you didn't wear pantyhose with your skirt, right? So both sides of the chasm, but I think we are seeing culture in general, we're accepting each other for who we are, male, female, non-binary, whoever you are, be the best you can be. That's what's expected. Just to be a good human, be you, be professional. So the Women in Teams community, man, it's a community and it's taken off so fast. You pointed out we have Women in SharePoint to thank for that. They helped kind of set the stage for us and everything. I'm curious, those in the room, are you part of the official Women in Teams community? Join the calls, follow on Twitter. So we have some work to do. I did not do my homework appropriately. Tomorrow, I will have a QR code. I will find ways to print it, put it out, whatever, where you can scan. We'll get your information. We'll get you signed up. If you want to be for the Women in Teams calls, everyone is welcome at the Women in Teams calls. So we have amazing male allies that join us very frequently. And we'll get some information for following the Twitter account so you can plug in. Curious, anyone here conferencing solo? What does that mean? Just you came, they're not with your coworkers, you don't have friends here, you're just here. You came here to be here. Friends here. Yes, but you came. So I know from experience, and I think it tends to be as a woman that can be, I'm shy sometimes, like 5% of the time I'm shy. But it can be intimidating to break in at a technical conference to people that you don't know. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about Women in Teams is we are here for each other. So if you're here and you don't have a group of friends to pal around with, you do now. So Christian, we need you on the front row, please.
This is for posterity.
Oh, thank you, sir. I attended, can you all hear me okay? I'll make sure I'm not too close. I attended a conference back in 2017, I think, and I had always gone by myself. And it was really hard to get comfortable with people and feel like I was part of the team, because it was really kind of cliquish long time ago. So there was a bunch of people like this, and it was a few that I knew that I had followed. And I kind of got brave and went up there and just kind of talked, and I explained that, you know, sometimes it's really hard when you have a problem and you don't have anybody to go to share it with when you're on your own. And every one of them was so awesome and so supportive. And they're like, Sue Hanley, she looks at me and she goes, I'm your new best friend. Come find me. And it was a game changer for me. So I felt more and more comfortable coming to these by myself. And now I know joy, I know all these people. It's just really excited, and I don't mean to get emotional, but how many of you have been where I am right now? You know, how many of you have come to these? And you know, I mean, it's not even just females, it's males too, you know, or anybody of any human. And it's really hard, but have courage and take that first step, because this team's awesome.
Nobody likes to walk around the lunchroom with their tray and not wonder where they can sit, right? And so I encourage people, if you see other people like that they don't look like, come sit and introduce yourself. Introduce them to other people. I am real big on that. I will introduce you to everybody, and you know, good or bad. But you know, but there are those of us, we're all advocates for each other. But seek them out too. Don't just wait for them to look for you. Seek them out.
That's one of my favorite things to do at conferences is go to a lunch table, introduce myself, get to know the people, and I'll usually choose a lunch table where people aren't talking, like it's the island of misfits, right? Maybe it's one or two offs from a couple of companies, or maybe a whole company didn't come and they don't feel comfortable enough talking to each other yet. I like scope out where I'm gonna, what table I'm gonna go sit at, and I'll introduce myself and ask this person, and I'll try to get them talking to each other, like, oh, that's neat, you do graphic design, but you were talking about this other thing, and just kind of get some conversational weaving happening to make those people feel more comfortable at the table. And then I'll challenge them at the end of the lunch. All right, so next lunch period or next break period, go find somebody that you don't know and sit with them and get to know who they are, and then tell them who you are. And it just makes for a more fun environment. It's hitting me right now. I can be a cripplingly shy person on occasion. So sometimes it's just that one little outreach that can help, you know, knock down a wall of shyness for somebody else.
Conversational weaving. That is a beautiful phrase that I am now completely going to steal. And I want to give a shout out to the other Microsoft people. You know, sometimes I feel like people think we're unapproachable because we work for Microsoft, or maybe you've seen my picture on a bunch of things or saw me at Ignite or whatever. But I still get nervous trying to figure out where to sit at lunch. Okay? So, and that's true of all of my colleagues. So don't think that just because we work at Microsoft also that suddenly we think we're special, because we are the kids who didn't have anywhere to sit at lunch. And that truth of my upbringing definitely follows me around. And so, yeah, and I see Christian in the back wants to share something.
I was just going to throw into that, not just Microsoft people, but MVPs, and you've got
Yes,
two up on
exactly.
the panel. And for those, if you know of an MVP, MVPs earn that recognition because of being community people. And so if you see somebody that's officially an MVP, or know that they're a former MVP, they are some of the most easy to approach people on the planet. You can go introduce yourself, talk to them, and they'll introduce you. Like every MVP I know is like that. So you know, don't be shy if you see the MVP title.
But fair warning, when you want to walk away, it'll be like, okay, no, really, I gotta stop,
I gotta
stop,
go.
stop, stop.
I encourage, if you guys don't know any of us, come up to us, connect with us, follow us, reach out to us. That's what we're here for. That's our job, is to help you guys feel included, know what's going on, be able to connect. So like, if you don't know us or you don't follow us, you're not connected to us, come up to us like after this session, find us in the hallways. We will absolutely connect with you.
All right, so I have a question for the room. Christian, be prepared. Okay. I'm curious to know, like, is this anyone's first conference since COVID ended or whatever, and you're finally out and about and doing stuff, right? So last year I conferenced a lot. I think I did 6 conferences from June to December because I was ready to be out there, right? Get out of the house. During the time when the world was crazy and upside down and we were stuck in home with teams, I would be curious of any personal, professional successes that you accomplished during that time. Did teams help you be able to overcome any particular challenges? Were you able to create like community groups? Now you have to be careful saying community with teams because now there are communities in teams. But it's a thing. It's there. Happy hours, things like that. Anybody have any stories on that?
Yeah. So I became the social chair for our like group, and so even though we all lived in the same city, we couldn't all get together, and we were kind of given a budget, and so we did virtual escape rooms. We did, and all on teams. My favorite thing though, if you ever need something, is still hands down the scavenger hunt, where you make people go find, go teddy bear, and people have like 20 seconds to put a teddy bear on camera. People love the scavenger hunt. So if you need like a team building thing, but no, we did great team building stuff.
Love it, love it, love it.
So while we're waiting for somebody else to talk, so I run the Kansas City Microsoft 365 user group. John gave us a really great hand for a while. So we were very early on in adopting virtual because we're so spread out. It's like an hour to get across Kansas City. So getting people to come over their lunch break was very, very difficult. And so we started talking, and we're like, we've got this new Teams thing. Like, why don't we start doing virtual? That way people who can't make it in can watch us on camera. And that we started getting more people popping in over their lunch breaks. And what's really interesting is when the pandemic hit, we were meeting in a physical location, and we were really kind of thinking about like, what are we gonna do? And when the pandemic hit, our venue went away. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't even matter. Like, we didn't skip a beat, right? The next month we had our session, and the next month we had our session, and the next month. And through all of this, we have not missed a month because of Teams. Because Teams allowed us to continue to meet. And during the pandemic, as other people were shutting their user groups down, we grew. We had global people pop in. We had people from other states pop in. We had other people who said, our user group is gone. Can we come to your user group? We're virtual. So because of Teams, we were able to keep our user group going through that whole time.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I will say, I I got awarded my MVP during COVID, which was a bright spot during a very scary time, but that gave me kind of an insider's view to all the things the team was doing. Oh my goodness, Caruana. It was amazing how responsive the product team was to the needs that we all had. And Caruana has been really good about promoting the hashtag human first and humans of IT. And I think that's something that Microsoft does very well, is they see the humans that are sitting in the chair using the technology. The avatar shows that, right? We've got a good group of people back there building the tools. Christian, I saw you make a motion.
Oh, I was just going to make the joke, like, Caruana, does the Teams team use communities and teams?
We do, actually, yeah. And then I have to figure out, who am I today? Am I the team, what, I'm not.
Is that now a drinking game?
It should be a drinking game.
It's Inception. I know, we live in Inception.
Absolutely. But, you know, I will just quickly say that I've never worked with a group of people that were as dedicated to the success of their customers as we were, as Teams Engineering was during the pandemic, and remains to this day. I think it permanently changed our organization's culture in terms of the way we work. And also, it's not just the folks in Redmond, it's the folks in India and the folks in China and the folks in Dublin. And it's a global team. And you know, when you're helping people in healthcare and you're helping people in government agencies and you're helping people in schools, you know, the work that the EDU team did for schools was, you know, bar none, just amazing. And, you know, I didn't come out of my home office for 4.5 months. I would come out, I would watch the news, I would see the counts, I would cry a little, and then I would go back to work. And I'm not kidding. And it just really changed me forever. And I know that, you know, the things we're talking about, the plus side of it, right? It also made Microsoft realize that all the skills and talents that they now love about me, I already had. I already had them and they just didn't know it. So it is an opportunity for all of us to continue to build our careers, because it is, I loved what you said, the game has changed. It's a completely different time now. Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry.
And I wondered if you might talk a little bit more about the technology behind it. So Teams existed before COVID, and there were lots of Microsoft customers who were using it regularly. With COVID and some significant price drops or, you know, free platform availability, and the whole world was taking up more bandwidth through Zoom or Google Meet or WebEx or, you know, whatever the platform was. But the Teams engineering team had what, a gold card, or, you know, the golden ticket for spending to be able to I think it was in a workforce trends report, cram something like 5 years worth of product development into 12 to 14 months to expand and ramp up teams to accommodate the global resource need and demand that came with the pandemic. So kudos.
Oh, well, I think we grew like 450% in 60 days.
Oh my.
And that is, you know, I don't know if I have that number accurate, but it was a humongous number. That's you can quote that. It was a humongous number in a very short period of time, and that included Azure capacity. So we are the biggest consumer of Azure in the world, and that compute and space capacity, we just had to grow like that. And that's what was really hard, actually, was all of that work. And then, yeah, it was just, I mean, I don't even know how to talk about it sometimes, because to me, it's very emotional, because I was doing a lot of public sector work and healthcare work at that time. So I was dealing with the people who were really afraid and really on the front line. And, you know, you're being of service, and that's what matters. But now we get to reap the benefits of that with all the cool stuff that exists. And, you know, the new Teams is also, which we announced, is also an outcome of the COVID work, because we knew we needed to re-architect it. So,
Yeah. What's your favorite Teams feature, Caruana?
my favorite Teams feature, sign out. Seriously, sign out. You know, people think that, like, I do bleed the colors of Microsoft. I am a lifer for sure, if I'm allowed to be. But I have no problem signing up and taking vacation. And I just got awarded my sabbatical. I will be off 12 weeks next year. 12 weeks weeks in a row. And I'm signed out for sure. There you go.
Awesome. You heard it
you
here
talk about-
first.
You talk about the public sector. I helped a lot of the federal government agencies transition and keep going. The CDC, I did 40 weeks of helping them onboard onto teams so they could continue to function in a time where it was crucial, so they could communicate, collaborate with each other. And the Special Operations Command, it enabled the government to keep functioning. And that's something, you can't overlook that. And yeah, like Special Operations Command, thank you so much for keeping us safe, right? So,
And I'm sure there are going to be lots of projects that people have, over time and over the years, but that's a project like for you and your team, that's a once in a lifetime, or hopefully once in several generations or several lifetimes type of look back where you can have such a significant impact on a global scale during a global event, to be able to provide foundation and ability for people to do more of what they're doing or continue doing what they're doing.
Excellent. Absolutely. But I think that was not just for us. I think it was for everyone. It has absolutely informed my desire to work on things I care about and work with people that I'm in alignment with and not do all the other BS. And I just believe that the rest of my career can be like that. And I know that I'm very privileged that I have that choice. I realize not everyone has that choice, but I do think we can all lean in to architecting our own futures. Like, I'm just not gonna do stuff I don't care about. Yes, I still do budget spreadsheets and expense reports, so, obviously, there's 20% of my life I wish I could jettison. But overall, overwhelmingly, I get to do things that matter, and I think we all can.
Love it. Okay, anybody have questions? We're in the last 8.5 minutes.
Let's open this up for questions.
Yeah, so questions for anyone? Burning questions.
is Ignite going to be back in person ever again?
What did you say?
Is Ignite going to be back in person ever again?
Yeah, I can answer that. So Ignite is in person, but in a limited way, right? Ignite had, I think, 6,000 people last time at our first hybrid event that was last fall. Build will be in person this May. If you haven't registered for Build, please do. It's super cool, and it's hybrid. I think there's going to be like 3,000 or 4,000 people there. Will there ever be 50,000 people and 700 sessions in Orlando again? I don't think so. But I could be wrong, right? We haven't bottomed out to the bottom of some of this contraction that we're seeing that's affected our budgets and what have you. So, maybe 3, 4, or 5 years from now, we will do that again. But one thing is for sure, we all know that hybrid is here to stay because we're able to reach people who will never be able to travel to an in-person event. And so we don't want to lose those people that we've now embraced. And there's another big component to it, which is accessibility of the content, right? We are committed to having all of our events be accessible in a variety of ways and inclusive in that way. And we can absolutely deliver that in a way more easily when it's hybrid. But yeah, I like the 6,000 people in Seattle. I thought it was fun, but there was some weird stuff to it too, right? Because it was first and new. And one of the big strategy changes is Microsoft, through our Global Community Initiative, investing in all of these third-party shows more strategically and more consistently and with an organized program, because this is where you're going to get your technical skilling. You're going to hear high-level messages at Ignite or Build, right? You're going to hear some of the technical stuff. But if you want to know about governance deeply, or telephony, or device implementation, or these real IT pro topics or adoption topics, you need to come to events like this. So I always tell people, pick this kind of event and maybe one other that you go to, maybe two, across the year, and that's how you're really going to plug in and stay current. Yeah.
I just miss the product team where you have the project, you've got the kiosks with it's ignored. Where's the waffle?
Yes.
It's ignored in all these big companies.
Honestly, Sherry, the waffle's coming.
Thank you.
It's coming.
All right.
It's coming for you.
I'm ready. I've been ready.
Did you want to share the community days?
Oh, yeah, you
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, sure.
talk about it. It's your baby.
It is my baby. Yes, it is. So I do run the Global Community Initiative, so it is. But I am the Microsoft sponsor of it, along with Jeff Deeper, who runs collaborative apps and platforms. So that's SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, GroupMe, all of that stuff is Jeff's, right? And he's a big proponent of community, and he was the one who created this global initiative. And it's supported and funded to some extent by Microsoft, but it's actually led by community members, right? Our board is external people, MVPs and other people, and anybody can participate. One of the things that we're doing is communitydays.org. So whether it's a paid event, a community days event, event like this one, whatever, we're working to have one calendar to rule them all, which sounds really easy until you realize how many calendars actually exist. There were 16 different event calendars in Microsoft when we started. We've got it down to 8. And if it's the last thing I do before I leave that company, there will be one calendar to rule them all with an API where you can query the events and display what you want on your website. So at any rate, that's my mission right now. But, we do event organizer trainings. You can find the sign up for it on adoption.microsoft.com. And we really enjoy having people participate. So it's a good way to stay connected to all these events.
Excellent. All right, last words of wisdom to the room before happy hour.
So write down communitydays.org. It's events like this, guys. It's small, it's cozy, it's affordable, probably close to you. Go to them if you can. They're worth your time. I think, we talk a lot about, especially in women, I know I'm going to kind of bring it back to this kind of, we're focusing on women. I think a lot of times women don't have the confidence to participate. They don't have the confidence to go out and do their own thing. They don't have the confidence to stand up. I'm the type of person that my whole life I jump off a cliff and figure out how to fly on the way down. That's just my personality. I'm sorry if you're around in my little circuit of that because it gets crazy. But I challenge you when you leave here to have the confidence to do the things you want to do, dream the things you want to dream, be the people you want to be, because I think, we do have the opportunity. The game has changed. We have the chance, so just do it.
I would like to circle back to communitydays.org. So events like this, or events that might already be happening in your area or your region, go find them and challenge yourself to do something that's uncomfortable, right? Go present or volunteer or help usher people around the lunchroom and find places for people to sit. But find a way to participate in those, because the value in those is really the people and the relationships that you build, the friendships that you build in those, face-to-face events. And those are what help tide you over during, a 3-year shutdown where everything's virtual. You will have made those friendships and those connections. Or if you started doing that during the shutdown and have started building those connections and friendships virtually, try some in-person events. Go meet the people that you're already familiar with. Mm-hmm. If you already have connected with people virtually, whether it's just LinkedIn or, otherwise, that familiarity hurdle has already been crossed. So, it's really easy to walk up to somebody like the ladies on our panel and say, hey, I know you from LinkedIn, or I saw that blog article. It makes it so much easier to do if you've seen their face a few times or participated in some of the community events. And the other thing that's great about the Community Days event, or the Global Community Initiative, is that in the past, a lot of these events were put on by Herculean volunteers like Sharon and others who've, invested a whole lot of time and money and effort and cost to themselves to build these kind of events. The Microsoft backing now means that a lot of the, event in a box, the how-to kit, the documentation, the flyers, how to engage people for speakers, all of that's kind of contained and bundled up in assets for people who are interested in creating a new community event in an area that might not have one. So, if that's something that you're interested in, make it happen. Don't wait for an invitation or a red carpet. Just bring your chair to the table, make your event happen, show up, and let other people know that you're interested in, and you'll be surprised at what builds around that.
Truth.
That's so awesome. Well, first off, I want to apologize for the fact that I am going to like run out the door. Normally I would hang out with all of you for a while, but I got that Uber coming to get to the airport. But, you know, just say yes. Turn down the voice of the critic in your head. Get a little volume control in that little troll and turn that voice down and just say yes. Because there's so much to say yes to right now in our careers, in our lives, with new opportunities, new technology, and new friends that you can make, and new relationships that you can have, right? You know, unbind yourself from who you used to be who you need to be now. Is the thing that I would say. And that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what I'm trying to help others do. And it's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight, but I think together we can get someplace really amazing. So that's what I would say.
Wonderful. And we're at time, but my piece of advice would be if you don't ask the question, the answer's already no. Whether that's for a promotion, to submit for speaking, whatever that may be. If you don't ask, it's already no. Be bold and ask the question. Thank you so much for coming.